Hey everyone, Karos Clips here. Today we're diving into the action-packed sci-fi disaster movie, 2012. Get ready for jaw-dropping escapes, world-ending chaos, and a thrilling race for survival. Spoilers ahead, so buckle up and let's jump right in. In the year 2009, the scene opens with a gigantic solar storm erupting on the surface of the sun. Meanwhile, Dr. Adrian Helmsley visits an astrophysics institute in New Delhi, India, where he meets his friend, Dr. Satnam. Satnam takes him to his lab located 9,000 feet below the Earth's surface and shows him images of the solar eruption we witnessed earlier, which is the largest solar storm in human history. Satnam then walks into another room and opens a hatch on the floor. Dr. Adrian cautiously steps closer. When he discovers that the water in the tank below is boiling, his face turns pale. During a fundraising event in Washington, D.C., Adrian Helmsley discusses alarming developments with Carl Anheuser, the White House Chief of Staff. Despite Carl's initial pushback, Adrian insists he read the report. After reviewing it, Carl tells Adrian that he needs to meet the president immediately. By 2010, during the G8 summit in British Columbia, President Thomas Wilson informs other world leaders of an impending disaster that threatens humanity's survival. At the same time, Chinese forces begin evacuating Tibetan villages due to unspecified threats, allowing only individuals with specific skills to remain. One such individual, a local man named Tenzin, is hired to work at a site. In 2011, world leaders urgently devise survival strategies for humanity. In London, a Saudi prince discusses financial matters with an MI6 officer at the Empire Grand Hotel. In Paris, specialists, under the supervision of the president's daughter, Laura, collaborate with the director of the Louvre Museum, Roland Picard, to replace the Mona Lisa with a replica in order to protect the original from fanatics. In 2012, Laura received a call from Roland, who informed her that they had lied to them about the reason for replacing the Mona Lisa. He claimed to have proof and had organized a press conference for the following day, where he planned to reveal the truth. However, as he was speaking, his car suddenly exploded. In Los Angeles, Jackson Curtis faces personal challenges amid scientific predictions of a solar climax and geological upheaval, signaling a potential global catastrophe. As doomsday prophecies gain traction, Jackson tries to balance work and family responsibilities. He arrives at his ex-wife Kate's house to pick up their kids, Noah and Lily, for a camping trip. As he approaches, Kate's new partner, Gordon Silberman, walks out of the house to say goodbye to the kids. Meanwhile, in the White House, Adrian and Carl are discussing the surface cracks on the roads with President Wilson. Suddenly, Laura walks in, demanding to know why Roland claimed that the organization she works for is a sham before his car exploded. She insists on getting answers. The president sits her down and reveals the truth. An impending disaster, kept secret from the public, that could potentially end all life on Earth. In Tikal, newscasts report a mass self-deletion linked to the Mayan Quiche calendar, which predicts the end of the world on December 21st, 2012. Musicians Harry and Tony were joking around as they boarded a cruise ship when, suddenly, a massive earthquake struck, alarming everyone on board and causing widespread panic. Jackson takes his kids on a family trip to Yellowstone National Park. While exploring, they come across a fence surrounding the lake area. Ignoring the warning signs, they climb over it and are shocked to discover that the lake has completely dried up, with dead animals scattered around the area. Unbeknownst to them, they are being watched from the trees by a strange man named Charlie Frost. Suddenly, the military arrives, declares the area restricted. Jackson and his kids were escorted to a nearby base, where Jackson met Adrian. Adrian recognized Jackson as the author of the book Farewell Atlantis, and explained that geologists were investigating the lake's disappearance. He warned Jackson that the area was highly unstable and advised him to evacuate immediately. While returning to the camp, Charlie, who strongly believed in an impending apocalypse, stopped Jackson and his kids, eager to know what the scientists had told them. Jackson shared the information, but Charlie burst into laughter, claiming he already knew the government was lying. Dismissing Charlie as a delusional conspiracy theorist, Jackson shrugged him off and continued on his way. Meanwhile, Adrian and Satnam discussed the rising global temperatures, which appeared to be accelerating at an alarming rate. Satnam shared new data, revealing that the Earth's crust was destabilizing much faster than anticipated. He urged Adrian that evacuation plans needed to be initiated immediately. Dr. Adrian and scientists urgently prepare in Yellowstone, convincing authorities of the critical situation. At the campground, Jackson notices Charlie broadcasting from his van and decides to tune into his radio show. Conspiracy theorist Charlie Frost shares ominous predictions about an impending disaster, claiming that only the wealthy will have a chance to escape. Intrigued and uneasy, Jackson approaches Charlie for more details. Charlie explains that the apocalypse is imminent, marking the end of the world, something foretold thousands of years ago, and the government is aware of it and is hiding the truth from the public. Charlie claims they are secretly building spaceships for the elite to escape, and anyone who discovered this information and tried to expose it has mysteriously died. Charlie also revealed that a professor had sent him a map showing the location of the government's secret spaceships before the professor was mysteriously killed. Despite Charlie's conviction, Jackson initially dismisses him as a conspiracy theorist. In Los Angeles while shopping, Kate and Gordon witnessed ground fractures and a series of earthquakes. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the events left them shaken. Concerned, Kate called Jackson and urged him to cut the trip short and bring the kids home immediately. In the White House, Carl informed President Wilson that 4 arcs were ready and that it was time to begin evacuation. He emphasized the need to notify the leaders of other countries. Adrian then addressed the gathered world leaders, explaining the urgency of the situation and warning that they had only 2 or 3 days left to act before the impending catastrophe. After dropping off his kids, Jackson receives a call from his boss, a Russian businessman named Yuri Karpov, who urgently instructs him to pick up his sons and drop them at the airport. Unbeknownst to Jackson, Yuri is planning to escape with his sons and girlfriend, Tamara. At the airport, one of the boys tells Jackson he'll die soon while they'll survive because they are going on a big ship. At that moment, a massive earthquake strikes, causing a large crack to split the ground. Shocked and alarmed, Jackson starts to believe that Charlie's warnings about an impending disaster might actually be true. Determined to save his family, Jackson rents a small plane and hires a pilot, then rushes to Kate's house to pick them up. On the way, he calls Kate to warn her, but she hangs up, dismissing his claims as nonsense. Suddenly, an even more powerful earthquake hits California, causing Kate's house to shake violently. Jackson arrives just in time as their home begins to collapse, narrowly rescuing Kate, Gordon, and the kids before everything crumbles around them, highlighting the urgency amidst the unfolding natural disaster. In a heart-pounding escape, Jackson races his limo through the crumbling streets of Los Angeles, narrowly dodging falling skyscrapers, collapsing bridges, and massive cracks in the ground. The chaos intensifies as they finally arrive at the airport, only to discover that the pilot is dead. Kate reveals that Gordon has taken a few flying lessons, but Gordon hesitates, admitting he has no real flying experience. With the runway collapsing behind them and disaster imminent, Gordon is forced to take the controls. Despite his inexperience, he manages to lift the plane into the air just seconds before the ground crumbles beneath them. As they escape the destruction of Los Angeles during the flight, Jackson reveals what Charlie told him, that he has a map showing the location of government-built spaceships, or perhaps ships, designed for survival. Meanwhile, on the cruise ship, Harry and Tony perform for relaxed passengers, a stark contrast to the chaos on land. During a break, Harry receives a call from his son Adrian, who confides in him the top secret news that the world is ending. Harry reassures Adrian not to worry, saying he's at peace with dying and promises to keep the secret to protect him. After the call, Harry shares a heartfelt moment with Tony, reflecting on life's fragility and urging him to reconnect with his estranged son. Their conversation highlights the importance of cherishing relationships, even in the face of an impending catastrophe. In Washington, D.C., Adrian receives urgent updates about catastrophic disasters unfolding worldwide, prompting immediate evacuation orders for the White House staff. As panic spreads, Adrian confronts Carl, urging him to tell the world the truth about the impending apocalypse. However, Carl refuses, insisting that the truth remain hidden until the chosen individuals are safely on board the arks. Adrian, frustrated, turns to President Wilson and urges him to leave immediately for his own safety. The president, however, refuses, stating his intention to remain behind and address the nation. He expresses his resolve to tell the public the truth, even if it means sacrificing his own life. Gordon lands the plane near a fueling station. Jackson searches for fuel and, along with Lily, sets out to find Charlie. They discover Charlie's RV and listen to a recorded message where he mentions being near the supervolcano's rim. Determined, they take the RV and follow his trail. Meanwhile, Kate receives tense calls from both Lily and Jackson, anxiously following their progress. Jackson and Lily eventually find Charlie atop a hill, broadcasting live about the apocalypse. Charlie reveals the location of the map Jackson is searching for. Suddenly, the landscape behind them begins to erupt violently. As the ground fractures and spews molten lava, they face treacherous terrain and mounting dangers. Tension peaks as they fight to escape the volcanic eruption. Charlie is tragically decapitated by flying debris as a massive ash cloud engulfs Yellowstone. Jackson and Lily narrowly escape in the RV, eventually parking near a small plane. Jackson sends Lily to board the plane while he searches the RV for the map. As he searches, the ground beneath the RV crumbles, causing it to tumble into a deep pit. Believing Jackson has perished, Kate and Gordon prepare the plane for takeoff, knowing time is running out. Against all odds, Jackson manages to retrieve the critical map from the wrecked RV and climb out of the pit. With the ground collapsing behind him, he sprints to catch the moving plane, leaping aboard just in time. Jackson examines the map and realizes their destination is in China. He tells the group they need a larger plane to make the journey, as their current aircraft won't be sufficient for such a long trip. As natural disasters wreak havoc across the globe, individuals are pushed to their limits, battling geological chaos and psychological turmoil in their desperate bid to survive. In Washington, Adrian boards the evacuation plane and informs Carl and the others that President Wilson has decided to stay behind. With urgency in his voice, Adrian emphasizes that they cannot wait any longer and orders everyone to prepare for immediate departure. Meanwhile, Jackson arrives at Las Vegas Airport, where chaos reigns as all flights have been canceled. Among the crowd, he spots Yuri, who is also stranded and waiting for a way to China. Jackson approaches Yuri to ask for help. Yuri's pilot, Sasha, informs him that he has located a Russian Antonov cargo plane, but it requires a co-pilot to fly. Lily overhears the conversation and interrupts, revealing that Gordon has flying experience. Despite some skepticism from Yuri, Sasha agrees and takes charge, leading the group toward the plane. They face resistance from rescue workers, but Sasha insists on getting everyone on board. Inside the Antonov, Noah stumbles upon a collection of luxury cars, meant for a car show, marveling at the display. With everyone aboard, the group braces for a risky takeoff on a short, heavily damaged runway. Despite obstacles, they manage to lift off, but not without damage, leaving the fiery devastation of Las Vegas behind as they head toward China. In Tibet, Nima seeks guidance from Lama about his brother's warning of doom. On the Antonov, Oleg shows Noah luxury cars, while Kate discusses personal matters with Tamara. Jackson asks Yuri how much he paid to secure a seat on the Ark. Yuri reveals that he paid a staggering 1 billion euros per seat. In the cockpit, Sasha and Gordon pilots the plane. They plan to refuel in Hawaii, but realize some wheels were lost during takeoff. Sasha continues with the landing procedure, flying into thick clouds over Hawaii. They realize something is wrong. Lava-covered islands instead of recognizable Hawaiian landmasses. With insufficient fuel, they must make an emergency water landing in the South China Sea. Adrian tries to reconcile with Laura, amidst catastrophic events unfolding worldwide. President Wilson aids people in shelters, showing humanity's resilience against impending doom. Suddenly, a massive earthquake strikes the area. The ground shakes violently, and the iconic Washington Monument collapses. In St. Peter's Square, Rome, Pope Benedict XVI holds Mass as millions gather. Suddenly, chaos erupts as the Vatican is lifted into the air. In Rio de Janeiro, violent quakes destroy the city, toppling the statue of Christ the Redeemer. On Air Force One, scientists report landmasses shifting by 1.2%, leading to tidal waves and reversed magnetic fields, causing global shifts. With the North Pole near Wisconsin, Tokyo sinks underwater, cruise ships capsize, ancient cities are ruined by tidal waves, and President Wilson regains consciousness, only to face another disaster. The world waits to see what will happen next. Communication ceases globally, except for signals from Choming. Jackson and his family face an engine failure over the mountains. Sasha, realizing the odds are against them, formulates a plan. He instructs Gordon to take the others and escape using one of the luxury cars on board. Sasha explains that he will keep the plane as low and stable as possible to give them a chance to drive out safely. Despite the tension and danger, Gordon reluctantly agrees, knowing it may be their only hope for survival. They make a hair-raising escape onto a glacier using a Bentley, but are confronted by armed Chinese soldiers demanding boarding passes. Their miraculous escape may be short-lived. Yuri abandons Tamara and the group to board a helicopter. Meanwhile, Carl, Laura, Adrian, and others board helicopters at an airfield in Choming Valley. They arrive at a mountainous area with colossal gates leading into an ark-like structure. However, they discover that one of the arks has been severely damaged during earlier tremors. Engineers and workers scramble to assess the extent of the damage, but it becomes evident that the ark is no longer operational, leaving fewer lifeboats for humanity's survival. Outside, Yuri argues about denied access with military personnel. Near Choming Valley's glacier region, Jackson's group struggles through tough terrain. Just as hope seems to fade, they are spotted by Nima and his family, who are traveling through the area. Recognizing their plight, Nima stops to offer assistance, providing the group with much-needed help and a glimmer of hope amidst the unforgiving landscape. Deep within a ship being prepared for departure, unease grows among workers and security personnel. In India, chaos unfolds as a gigantic tidal wave approaches. Satnam, desperate to save his family, races against time to escape the oncoming catastrophe. Amid the chaos, refugees march in search of safety. As the wave looms closer, Satnam makes a heartbreaking phone call to Adrian. He informs Adrian that the promised evacuation chopper from his government never arrived, leaving them stranded. With a heavy heart, Satnam bids Adrian a goodbye. Adrian hears screams of an approaching wave, but can't act. He rushes to get satellite images, discovering tidal waves coming from both the south and east. The new data suggests earlier flooding than anticipated. Carl urgently seeks other heads of state for help. Nima's truck arrives with Jackson's group, encountering Tenzin, who insists on sending them back because his plan to sneak them onto the Arks won't work with so many people, but Grandma convinces him to take everyone. A massive shipyard reveals gargantuan vessels, built like spaceships, departing without some passengers, causing chaos. Tenzin leads a group over a mountain ridge towards launching structures. A frantic race against time unfolds at launch towers, with climactic sequences involving Tenzin's family climbing up. The tension reaches its peak as the countdown to departure begins. Jackson, Lin, and their group are at Choming's site amidst chaotic boarding attempts led by Yuri. In the frenzy, Caesar leaps onto thick cables. Tamara anxiously waits for her dog amidst the commotion. Outside, people dangerously push each other to board ships, causing tragic accidents. Meanwhile, Adrian Helmsley pleads through international communication channels to open the gates and save everyone, despite Carl's resistance. Compassion ultimately prevails as the gates are opened. As the gates of the three ships finally open, celebrations break out. However, on the American Ark, life-threatening situations quickly unfold as Jackson's group sneaks through the lifting mechanism, which begins moving as the gates open. The chaos intensifies as Gordon and Tenzin are pushed off and narrowly manage to cling to the edge of the mechanism. Tenzin's leg is severely injured in the struggle, but Jackson, driven by urgency, rushes to help. He manages to pull Tenzin back up to safety, but in the process, Gordon loses his grip and falls, crushed by the massive gears below. Jackson nearly meets the same fate, but the cables they used to climb get caught in the moving gears, saving him at the last moment. Amid the chaos, Yuri, driven by a sense of duty and love for his sons, sacrifices himself. He pushes them to safety, taking the brunt of the danger himself in a final act of selflessness. A hydraulic chamber malfunction leaves the gate partially open. Carl lashes out at Adrian, who then organizes an emergency response with just 53 seconds left. The survivors race against time to fix the malfunction and prevent further tragedy. An American ship faces imminent danger as tidal waves approach. The technical officer explains that the engines won't start unless the stern gate is manually closed. Panic ensues as water floods in. On board the zoological bay section, characters navigate rising waters and sealed compartments. Lily is separated from her family. Tamara manages to save Lily and her dog before being trapped herself, while Kate anxiously awaits news about Lily. Chaos peaks as the ship approaches Mount Everest's north face. Adrian tells Jackson that he can't help him, as the area has been sealed off due to an emergency mechanism. The only way for Jackson's family and the others on the ship to survive is for him to return and manually unstick the hydraulic chamber that controls the entrance to the Ark. Jackson, with a heavy heart, says a final goodbye to his family, knowing the danger he faces. As he rushes to fix the malfunctioning gear, Kate stays behind to help tend to Tenzin's wounds. Meanwhile, Noah, against his father's wishes, sneaks out and follows him into the dangerous area. He finds Jackson fighting to free a jammed power tool in the hydraulic chamber, using one hand as the seconds tick away. Seeing his father's struggle, Noah rushes to help, holding a flashlight so Jackson can use both hands. Together, they manage to make some progress, but the tension is palpable as the stakes rise. Meanwhile, Tamara drowns in another compartment. With determination and grit, Jackson finally manages to pull the jam cables out, and the gates finally closes and the crew works in tandem to restart the engine. The tension is excruciating as the ship shudders, but with a final push, the engines roar to life just in time. The ship narrowly avoids a catastrophic collision with Mount Everest, veering away from the massive mountain as the group takes a collective breath of relief. Celebrations follow, including heartwarming reunions and reconciliations as Jackson reunites with his family. Years begin to be counted as after the flood, marking a new era for humanity. On the 27th day of the first month, in a quiet, hopeful moment, Helmsley and Laura share their first kiss, symbolizing the bond formed amidst the chaos and tragedy. At that very moment, the captain announces that the skies are finally clear, and the people aboard the Arks can step outside to see the sun for the first time in what feels like an eternity. As the people of all three Arks take a collective breath of fresh air, feeling the warmth of the sun on their faces, a new chapter begins. Helmsley checks the satellite reports, learning that the waters are receding. In a remarkable turn of events, the entire African continent has risen, offering hope for a future reborn. The Arks, once a symbol of escape and survival, now become the vessels of renewal as they head toward Africa to start a new life. The survivors look forward to the future with cautious optimism, knowing they are part of something greater, humanity's second chance. Roland Emmerich's 2012 is the ultimate disaster movie roller coaster. Massive, loud, and unapologetically over the top. Watching it feels like strapping in for a wild ride, knowing full well it's all about the thrills and not the details. The visual effects are absolutely stunning. Cities crumble, oceans rise, and the destruction is brought to life with such intensity that it's hard not to feel awestruck. That said, it's not a movie to watch if you're looking for deep characters or a meaningful story. The plot is straightforward, the world is ending, and a small group of people races against time to survive. While the premise has potential, it doesn't dig much deeper than that. The characters are a bit one-dimensional, and the dialogue often feels cheesy, with none of those big emotional moments that stay with you after the movie ends. What really stood out to me was how relentless it all felt. Every scene was a close call, like planes taking off just in time or cars outrunning explosions. It's exciting at first, but after a while, it starts to feel repetitive and a bit too far-fetched, even for a movie about the apocalypse. Despite all that, I had fun with it. It's clear the movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and there's a tongue-in-cheek vibe that makes it easier to enjoy the absurdity. Woody Harrelson's performance, for example, adds a quirky touch that lightens things up. Plus, the sheer scale of the destruction sequences is enough to keep you glued to the screen. If you're a fan of big-budget disaster movies like Independence Day or The Day After Tomorrow, you'll probably enjoy 2012. It's campy, action-packed, and full of jaw-dropping visuals. But if you're looking for a movie with emotional depth or something that makes you think, this one might not hit the mark. The film in question contains a range of mature themes that parents should be aware of. While explicit sexual content is minimal, there are brief references to sexuality and scenes featuring characters in skimpy clothing. Violence, while not overly graphic, is prevalent throughout the movie, with scenes of mass destruction, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis, resulting in numerous casualties. While the lack of gore keeps the violence from becoming too explicit, the emotional intensity and gravity of the events are deeply unsettling. Profanity is moderate, featuring the use of mild expletives, religious exclamations, and mild insults. Alcohol consumption appears occasionally, contributing to a sense of realism within certain scenes. Overall, the film's dark and intense atmosphere makes it more suitable for older teens and adults, given the graphic nature of its destruction and the emotionally distressing events depicted. While the visual effects and action sequences are undeniably impressive, the lack of depth in the story and characters keeps it from being truly memorable. It's a fun ride, but not one I'd rush to rewatch, so I would rate it 6.6 out of 10. Subscribe for more videos like this, and turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out.